Let's go. Welcome to the Eden Army podcast, everybody. My name is Pete Robertucci. I am your host. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Russ is in the background doing his thing, hitting the buttons, making everything work flawlessly like he always does. But look, before we get started, I would like to thank our good friends over at Tactical Wisdom. Mr. Joe Dolio has been a great friend to our podcast, and we'd like to repay him by giving him a shout out. I recently bought 2 of his books, and man, they are right up my alley. Preparedness based with religious principle, right? You can't go wrong with that. So I love that, and we have our QR code up on the screen. You can see that for the books that I have. I've gotten 2 of them so far. A manual baseline training and the field craft. And I got to tell you, I love them both so far. So good. So a lot of practical stuff there. And again, with a biblical principle, right? So that's very important to me. It should be very important to most of us. I'd like to thank Teresa and Caleb for your resubscriptions. That keeps the lights on. You know how that works. But I'm really excited tonight because we have a guest, Miss Stephanie Johnson from Rebuilding Hollers, a person who practices what she preaches, right? That's what we all should do. She put her life on hold to help her tribe, to help her community. And what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, I'll tell you, on September 26th of last year, Hurricane Helene made landfall in the Big Bend area of Florida, on the Florida Peninsula. I think it had something like 140-mile-an-hour winds, but it didn't stop there, right? It kept going north. It made its way all the way up to North Carolina, where it dropped approximately 31 inches of rain. And according to some of the experts did $250 billion with a B dollars worth of damage. And there was unfortunately a death toll, which is yet to be determined because they're still finding lost souls. But the death toll as of today was 251 lost souls. So listen, before we bring Steph on, I want to remind you guys of what actually happened that day. So I'm going to run this.
Yeah, the hurricane's sheer size and its incredible strength is expected to bring life-threatening destruction to large parts of the South over the next few hours. Millions of people have already boarded up their homes and tried to find places to safely hunker down.
It is so serious. One emergency management official told people who chose to ride out the storm to write their names and birthdays on an arm or leg so they can be identified if necessary.
We're going to have up to 20 inches of rain in an area that can have significant flash flooding, and that is really life-threatening, and it comes so much faster than what we see from a storm surge.
Today, a bird's eye view of western North Carolina looks like this, dotted with roads wiped off the map, cutting off entire communities where Helene's torrential flooding changed lives overnight.
It floated everything inside the house. It even floated a double-door refrigerator and flipped it on its side.
John Norwood and his fiancée sought shelter at a friend's house when Helene arrived. A mudslide took out the home.
We looked outside and there was a 30-foot tall wall of water and rocks and tree debris just coming at us.
First responders pulled him over the floodwaters to safety. His fiancée, Julie LaRue, is still missing.
And I crawled around screaming, looking for her, and I just couldn't find her.
She's among the hundreds of people unaccounted for, with power and cell service cut off in swaths. Some are resorting to communicating via whiteboard and marker, names of those missing and updates when they're found.
And it's hard to think that a mile that way and a mile that way, it's all gone. But at least we have this, we can rebuild from here.
Wow, powerful stuff. Just amazing event that happened up there. So without any further ado, let's bring in our good friend, Mrs. Stephanie Johnson.
Hi,
Steph,
Pete.
how are you doing, young lady? It's so good to see you.
So good to see you too. You have me crying already before we.
I put that together, and Russ says, "Look, man, you probably ought to warn her about that." And I go, "No, Russ. Like Russ taught me, the best thing you could do with a guest is make them cry, make them get emotional, make them show how passionate they are for their whatever they're doing, right? But really, honestly, what devastation, right? What a tragedy So this is something we need to not to forget about. We need to keep that in the forefront of what we're doing. But before we get into to you, Steph, I want to just a quick story, because I think I met you the first time up at either Fallout or Mountain Readiness. And I was the introverted writer that just kind of wanted that. They drugged me along to one of these expos, right? They drugged me along, Chris and Russ did, and they drugged me along to sell my silly books. And I just wanted to hide in the woods. So I get there, I set my table up. I'm there an hour early. And here comes this bombshell blonde next to me. She's all bouncing and happy. And I'm like, this is not going to work. I just want to hide. And she's too just happy. But look, I could tell right away you were a good soul. And I've liked you ever since. So thank you for being on tonight. And thank you for being the person you are.
Thank you so much for having me. And I do remember that you were right next to me. So like there was no hiding.
I know, exactly. Exactly. So Steph, tell us what life was like for Stephanie Johnson prior to September 26, 2024. What kind of work did you do? What hobbies? Tell us about how you were and what you did prior to this event.
So before the storm, I was a local realtor. And the way we met is because my specialty was preparedness, off-grid, homestead, farms. I love working with folks in that were looking for that type of property, which is why we were at the same convention, because for the last 10 years, I would go to preparedness conventions to meet people that may be looking for a unique property and needed a unique realtor to help them in that search. So before the storm, I was living my very best life.
Sure.
Yeah. We homeschooled our daughter. She was in her, she had just finished her senior year. So she was in her first year of college right at the storm. And so we floated the river. We explored the mountains. We just did exactly what we wanted to do, which was enjoy nature here in the remote mountains of Western North Carolina.
See, that's awesome. So you're living your life, everything's going good. Then Helene hits, right? It makes landfall. So it hits the Big Bend of the Florida Peninsula, but nobody expected what it was going to do next, especially up there in North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Western North Carolina, stuff like that. During the event, when did you realize that this was going to be an historic event, first of all? And what prompted it? When did it set in that, whoa, this is bad?
Yeah. So, we had no idea here. At the night of the 26th, about 8:00, we had, what is it called when they send out a warning, a curfew. So we had a curfew come out about 8 or 9 o'clock. So my last Facebook post to the world was, oh, we're under curfew. Now I need to go to the store. We had no idea that we had this devastation upon us. Nobody knew. We had no idea. I had a big open house planned with 6 tours of 6 different stops for Saturday morning. And so during the storm, my daughter and I stayed up and we were making our little houses with all the little gift bags and preparing for our open house on Saturday.
Wow. So then the storm comes in, the rain's falling like crazy. And then obviously now you're beginning to find yourself cut off from civilization for the most part. I mean, your holler for the most part is your civilization. You probably didn't want anything more than that, but at some point you had to make your way out and see how bad the devastation. What did you see when you left your holler there?
So it took us a couple of days to get out of our holler. It stopped raining. It hit here Friday morning, so the 27th. I think that was a Friday. It might have been a Thursday. But it was the 27th. That morning is when it really hit here. I woke my husband up about 7 o'clock and I said, I'd already had go bags ready, in case we needed to go. We live on the side of a mountain. So as the winds got extreme and the rain was extraordinary, I said, I better get us some bags ready, right? So we get all of the important document bags ready. And I wake my husband up and I said, honey, you need to get up. I think this is going to be pretty bad. And it was very bad. We lost trees all around us, but it was horrific until it stopped, and it stopped just as fast as it started. And the sun came out at 11 o'clock that morning. And so we walked down our driveway, which is about a mile, and halfway down our driveway, that was it. I mean, trees were just everywhere. So it took us 2 days. My husband, my daughter, she was 18 at the time, cutting our way out of our driveway. And when we got to the end of our driveway, we have a 1-lane road, a dirt road, and the river had actually jumped the road into the road. So the road was gone as well. So we had to take the trees that we had cut into pieces and fill the big ruts just so that we could get out of our driveway and down the road.
Wow. So you got down the road, and I assume you made it into town. Was it Burnsville? Is that where you made it into? And what did you see once you got into there? You were going in to get some supplies, I assume.
Yeah.
Tell us about that dynamic when you got into town.
Well, I thought, okay, looks like, power was out, no cell phones, no internet. And so we were going down the road, and the first gas station we come to, we pulled in. I said, hey, they're open, and we had cash. So it was cash only. And I went in just to buy a couple things, top off our supplies. And there was a mom behind me buying food with a bag of quarters. And that's when I knew. I thought, oh God, we've been in our hauler for 3 days. How long did it take her to collect all those quarters to buy this food for her children? Wow. And that's when I knew that we were in serious trouble, that, families were going to be hungry. Families were going to be starving. This was already day 3. And that's when something inside of me snapped, and I knew that I wouldn't get to go back home and work on my apocalypse crafts as I had planned.
Right, exactly. So for the first few days, where did now you set up for, and I understand you set up in a parking lot, right? Because you felt the need, you felt you were moved to start helping people. So you set up in a parking lot for the most part. And how did the donations start coming in? Like, was it people from the community? Tell us a little bit about that.
So on day 3, when we got out of the holler, I was able to get enough cell phone service to make a Facebook post and tell people we were alive, because people did not even know if we were alive. So I was able to get a little bit of signal and make a video that says we're alive, but we're in trouble, and we're going to need some supplies. And so some friends of mine out of Cabarrus County, which is down by Charlotte and Concord, they saw that video. I told them we're going to be in Rose's parking lot. And the next morning, the first truckload of supplies came in, and we handed every one of them out that day.
So am I wrong in saying that actually some of the first aid that you got was from a family member, wasn't it? Wasn't it from a brother maybe?
Yeah, my brother came up. They started collecting right away. And they came up, brought a huge trailer load of supplies, but other realtors and lenders, folks in my community of real estate, they heeded the call. They saw the video, and they started loading stuff immediately.
So that's interesting, because one of the questions I had for you, do you feel like your background in real estate and your connections in real estate, especially with contractors and stuff like that, do you feel that helped your effort, or do you think that helped at all?
It definitely does now. As we've evolved into the actual rebuilding phase, my background has been significant. But in the beginning, it was just please come, just. And so my family is all in the Harrisburg, Charlotte area. And so they all did, my hometown, they went crazy collecting and doing anything they could to get stuff up here into Yancey County. It was incredible.
Wow. That's something else. So from what I understand, the first 7 weeks, most of your donations came from local people. They came from community folks. From what I understand, Yancey and Mitchell County officials did a pretty good job in response to the storm. The local officials. Tell me about when you started seeing federal help.
Well, I can tell you this. Every man in my family since the American Revolution has been in the military. And for the first time in my life, I was so upset with our military. And still I have problems with the way that we had our state and federal response to this disaster, to what happened to us. It was held off. And I know that from internal friends. And when I called them and I said, where are you? You're supposed to be here. And they said, Steph, we're on stand down orders. They won't let us come. And these are people that are they are the response. They are the response to disasters like this. And so I was, my hero is the sheriff of Yancey and Mitchell County, Sheriff Shane Hilliard. He is my hero. The very last call that he made before the storm took our power, phones, and internet was to the Sheriff Association to say we're in trouble. and he was able to get a response from 18 different sheriff's offices in the state of North Carolina. And that's who came and helped us.
See, and it's always, and this is what we tell people in the preparedness world, right? We always tell people, you are your own first responder. You're on your own. No one's coming to help you. Now, the response to your area, I have my opinion on why you didn't get the response that you deserved. There were other things going on in the world that the administration at the time might have felt were more important, which I don't quite understand, nor do I agree with it, right? But I'm not going to get on my soapbox about that yet. I'll get on my soapbox later about that. But yeah, you're your own first responder. No one's coming to help you. This is why we do the preparedness thing. This is why podcasts like mine, like Tease, like Angry Americans, this is why people tune into these things, because we realize now that, look, we're on our own, guys. No one's coming to help our tribe. And sometimes they're not coming to help our tribe for political reasons, unfortunately. So don't rely on help. Be your own first responder. That's what I say. Guys, I know that we're having a little bit of a problem migrating some of the chat from YouTube and Facebook. I see some Facebook stuff coming in from Steph's channels, which is great. But I know the Eden Army stuff isn't coming through for some reason. I don't know what to tell you, but we're going to go on with the show. Carry on, right? That's what they say, right? Just go with it, adapt and overcome. So like I said, we're our own first responders. We have to have faith in our community and our fellow man. But speaking of faith, tell us about, Steph, and if you don't want to talk about this, that's fine. Tell us about how your spiritual faith and how your beliefs helped you through this ordeal.
Well, God has done everything. I can tell you that. But I do want to, before I tell you all about that, I do want to say that, in Yancey and Mitchell County, mountain folk are who cut us out. Mountain folk are who started building the roads right away. Mountain folk are who did everything to get everybody out and safe. And the response locally was beyond incredible. You just can't imagine how hard everybody in this community worked every day, day and night, to get to their neighbors. So my community is the most amazing community in the world, which is why we were able to we did have loss of life, but not as many as we could have, because they were on it. So I want you to know how incredible my community is. And God has done everything. That's exactly who I work for. And I don't say that as a Bible thumper, because my church is the Toe River and it's destroyed. But God was very clear to me that he wanted me in a parking lot handing out food. And then on November the 2nd, we received our first load of building materials. And I'll never forget saying, God, do you want me to get into building materials? And 4 hours later, 100 doors showed up. Wow. So what do you say? You say, yes, sir. And that's the night that the building material, the back lot of where we were, we started getting building materials. And so we've been into building materials heavily ever since then. And I'm thankful for that, because people, they are devastated. The homes are just destroyed. Their barns are destroyed. You have a very self-sustaining community here, and they've lost all their tools. They've lost all their animals. They've lost just everything, and they need the materials and tools to rebuild. And so that has been my appointment ever since November the 2nd, is to make sure that every person that lost their building material, their home, their shops, their barns, their tools, whatever they lost, it's my mission to get it back for them, because I know that they can take care of themselves if they just have the proper tools.
Yeah, 100%. And it's amazing how the community comes together, right? So we're a year past the event. Any headway on support from FEMA and stuff like that, or is it trickling in, or where are we at with that from a federal standpoint?
So we're not quite a year. We're right at 8 months in. Mm-hmm. FEMA is a huge disappointment at every level. They have paid some claims. They have not paid most claims. One thing I did learn during this is FEMA is the underwriter for flood insurance. So my projects that had flood insurance, they still can't get their money. They still, it's a total disaster. It is a shame at every level for FEMA insurance and regular insurance. It's a joke. It's a joke. Some people get money, some people don't get money, but no matter what they get, it's never enough. It's not enough.
It's not enough, and people had some qualms about the current administration and how they were going to streamline FEMA as opposed to having the federal government handle it, have the states or the municipalities handle it. And I think that's the right way to go. They're not cutting FEMA, they're not cutting emergency aid. They're allowing the people that are on the ground in the devastated areas manage those funds and react appropriately without the red tape of the federal government. So I don't listen to all the chatter when it comes to cutting FEMA and this and that. The fact of the matter is, the last administration took FEMA funds away for a completely different reason, while you people in Western North Carolina, Tennessee, Kentucky, and Middle North Carolina were suffering during the exact same time. So yeah, I have a little bit of animosity toward FEMA in the way they handled that particular disaster. These are American people that have paid their dues and deserve to be helped. They're not asking for help, but they deserve to have the help. But luckily, it was a blessing that people like yourself, Stephanie, stepped up and really took charge there. Because I mean, ultimately, like I said, that's what we need to do. And there's nothing ashamed of. Rev said, "Look, there's nothing to be ashamed about being a Bible thumper." You know,
like that. I love God so much.
Reverend Finch is my spiritual Eden Army advisor, and he has definitely made me not ashamed to be a Jesus freak, and I'll proclaim that right now.
Know that I don't. That my church is here. My church is in nature. My church is in the river. My church is in my community. And so it's not my home church is my home. It is here. It is everybody here. And so I just always like to reiterate that because people don't understand how real God is. I mean, he talked directly to people's hearts and he said, go help them. And they came and they still come. They still help us. And I know it's because God told them to. I could tell you miracles after miracles that God has performed that are unimaginable. It's like he wrapped bubbles around houses and kept them safe. He sent people with items that we needed exactly at the moment we needed it. It walked in the door to help a family that had lost family members that was suffering. And what God has done here is incredible. So I say that so people understand how real God is. He is very much alive and very real here in Western North Carolina.
Yeah, and he is worldwide. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we kind of get caught up in our own lives. Everything's going good. We kind of forget that the reason things are going good is because we're not in charge to begin with. So if anything goes good, it was given to us to begin with. Russ, you can pop a question up. I know there's some questions coming in on Kick Chat and other stuff. You can pop them up and we'll address those as they come. Guys, if you have any questions for Steph, just hashtag rebuilding, ask the question, and Russ will do his due diligence and get it up on the screen for you. Finch said, did the church step up and do their job? Well, I mean, I imagine since the church was destroyed, Rev, it'd be kind of hard for them to, but maybe you can answer that. Did the church, local churches there help much?
We have a ton of local churches here, and so many of them did. They opened their doors immediately. The church right above our office here now, they actually had their preacher for like 6 days. He was a brand new pastor for the church. And so, yes, so many churches, and not just churches here, churches all over the country have stepped up and come and helped us. There's a church out of Alabama that has been incredible support team for us, helping us get the things we need, collecting, monetary donations and buying us the things we need. The churches have been incredible. I've been so thankful.
Yeah, we're certainly lucky, especially, we try to, a lot of times try to distance ourselves from the good that the church does. But they still have a purpose and are doing certainly good work. Guys, I didn't do my due diligence. I'm sorry because I forgot Steph had paired her channels. My name is Pete Robertucci. I run this little podcast on Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I write silly post-apocalyptic books, and I'm kind of into prepping. So we do this on Thursday nights. So feel free to join us whenever you want. And Stephanie's part of our tribe. So, she's like Kate says, her and her team are just incredible. And I wholeheartedly agree with that. Very cool. So, Steph, you've been blessed and successful with a company called Rebuilding Hollers, a 501c3. Now, I understand you're taking this thing to the next level. I understand that you are doing something that I have a hard time doing, and that diving into this podcast world, right? Tell us about Rebuilding Hollers, the podcast, and what you hope you can accomplish by getting that word out on every Friday night on at 8 p.m.
I'm so excited to start a podcast. I've kind of been doing a podcast already as far as with the Facebook Lives. That's how I started everything in Rose's parking lot. I would just get on lives once we had a Starlink, and I would just tell people what we need, what we didn't have, just all the things. So I'm most excited for the podcast to take us to the next level. I need the whole world to know we are still not okay here in Western North Carolina. I need them to know that Yancey County is the most devastated, with over 7,000 structures damaged or destroyed and over 1,500 homes damaged or destroyed, and that we have a very, very long way to go to get our community up. So the podcast is all about getting the word out and continuing to share our message beyond Facebook, and anywhere that I can get the message out so that people know how incredible my community is, and how I still have such a long way to go to get everybody's homes rebuilt.
Well, it's amazing just from looking at the starred comments in my chat, and I've been popping them up as you've been speaking. You are going to do just fine in your podcast. You are a beloved member of the community. I can see it. I'm just going to keep. Let me find another question for you though, so I can just. Here we go. Here's a good one from Cecilia. What are the 5 most important things to have in a disaster? Knowing that you just went through this, you've seen the suffrage that's involved in a real life disaster that wasn't man-made, that was no fault of anybody else. What are the 5 most important things in hindsight you wish you had or you wish other people had?
So the number one would be communications, another kind of communication. They've got some really cool like GPS things that you can get satellite coverage on. I think that would have been very good. You can text message on those. I'm not sure what they're called, but it's like in the tracking realm if you were deep in the woods.
Mm-hmm.
The satellite connection. Also, the cheap tune-in radios, just those little emergency radios. That was the hardest part, because when I tell you we lost everything, there was no cell service, no internet, no radio service, nothing. We were cut off from the world. It was completely dark here as far as any kind of communications. So for a long time, we had no idea what was happening everywhere. We just knew we were without power. So I would say any kind of emergency communication plus a radio so that you can understand what's going on. Once it goes out, once my power had went out, had I known how severe this storm was still coming into my community, I feel like I would have been more prepared. I would have pushed harder to get out of my holler faster so that I could have got to people sooner. Cash, you got to have cash, people. You have got to have cash at all times. Because the people that didn't have cash here, which was most 75, 80% of people, they didn't have any cash. So that was the only way that when the grocery store and the gas stations finally opened up, they only let people in with cash. So you've got to make sure that you have emergency cash put back. That's huge. I would say a generator. I mean, I'm a huge fan of having a generator on standby in case, at least for your refrigerators, your freezers, communications, your wells, things like that, and a chainsaw. Everybody needs a chainsaw.
I would agree. And those are the things that, kind of as a fiction writer, we write about, and it's like it seems like it would be common sense, but it's really not. People don't have that. And look, quite frankly, some people simply just don't have that little bit of extra money to put aside. I mean, they're trying to buy bread and eggs and stuff like that, right? But we see now during a disaster how important that cash is. Because you guys were all cash. I mean, there was everything's down. There's no communications. They don't have the credit card machines. They used to imprint your credit card. Those days are over. It's all electronic, and there is a certain amount of importance to have cash in your bug out bag or somewhere if you're able to. But I certainly understand that. Look, everybody's not quite able to do that.
Even if do it, you have to do this. These are things you have to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's a no brainer. Just to keep that little bit aside, just if you need a little bit of gas, and just to get out, just to get to your family's house. And in a storm like this, if you could get 20, 30, 40 miles away, that may not be a part of the area that's been devastated, right? Everything might be pretty much normal there. So you just got to have that little bit set aside. That's something we preach in the preparedness world all the time. It doesn't always work out, though, unfortunately. Let's see what Julie here has to say. Miss Julie Carpenter says, we love you, Steph, tuning in from Spruce Pine, and we were hit very hard. Actually went to see Steph when she was up in Roses Park. So Julie, you guys helped Julie out apparently there. So just touching hearts, right? You just constantly touching hearts. And this is one of the things, disasters are always bad. Hurricanes are always bad. But 9/11 was a horrible thing. But then 9/12, the entire country came together, right? Sometimes events like this, as horrendous as they are, shows you how valuable your tribe, how valuable your community is, and how blessed we are to actually have that, and that to have good neighbors and stuff like that. It's something we preach in the preparedness world a lot, is community and tribe. So very cool. Natasha said that you distributed bug out boxes to the community for future disasters.
I did. I still do. I still have those available. I want everybody to be prepared. It matters to me so much.
And I know that our close group of people, the Chris Weathermans of the world, the big T over there at Mountain Readiness, they all, I think T brought you a whole bunch of stuff, chainsaws and generators and stuff like that. So, I just can't stress the value of community. And it might not be your immediate neighbor, guys, but it's your like-minded community. Something that, like I said, we stress a lot here at the Eden Army. Stephanie Johnson and the team have been a phenomenal positive impact for communities. I love the fact she's doing projects and assign them numbers. She's very transparent and loves everyone. And that's the thing, when you open a 501c3, the transparency's there. Okay, so there's no the money's going here, the money's going there. If you give money to a 501c3, first of all, it's tax deductible. Okay, just like as if you were to give it to your church or anything like that. And then there is oversight to make sure those funds are spent where they're supposed to be spent. Look, Steph's not doing this to make a whole bunch of money. I can promise you that. She's doing this to help out her community, and she's moved to do that. So these are the kind of things that I like to give to. These are the kind of things that rather than give to a red, I'm not saying anything bad, but rather give to a Red Cross or U.S. aid or whatever the hell it might be. These are the things that I certainly like to promote. And the fact that you have such a solid person running Rebuilding Hollers, an honest person, a faithful person, right? Yeah, that has my nod, Eden Army. So definitely, we have the QR code up on the screen right now. That's how you can get a hold of the Rebuilding Hollers folks. So yeah, they definitely have my nod of approval. Patrick 7 says, "Look, I'm not crying. You're crying. Stop." So he got a little. Let's get a couple more.
479 projects that we're working on.
How many? Say again.
479 projects.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, is it true? I saw some stuff on the internet, so it must be true. Is it true that the Amish were there building up houses and stuff like that, or is that just
No, I've hung out with the Amish a couple times. They're so kind. Yes.
That's awesome. We have
pictures of them. You want to be respectful of everybody. That's the hard part of this is and why I call all of my projects. They get a project number, and so that we can respect their privacy, we can respect their building, give them some privacy during their devastation, but give them all the resources that we have access to. But yeah, the Amish are awesome. They work hard.
We have up here in northern Wisconsin, where I spend the summer, we have a large Amish community. And I tell you, I just love going to their farms and buying their produce and or if they, they'll make a wood shed for somebody and help them move it. I love those people. They're awesome. They're salt of the earth kind of people, right? Let's see. I thought I saw a question from Mr. Kelly. How did the Mountain Heritage Carpentry class building houses happen? How did that come about?
That's a great question, Kelly. Thank you so So shortly after November 2nd, I met Mr. Jim Swain. He's the founder of the Pillars organization, which, see, here we have Mountain Heritage High School, and they have a privately funded construction technology program. So state-of-the-art building. It's amazing. They've built 18 small houses previously. And so their founder came to me and said, can we build tractor sheds for you? And I said, well, Mr. Jim, aren't you building tiny houses? And he said, well, yes. I said, then let's keep building tiny houses. And so we came to a sponsorship agreement where I would provide them the building materials and they would continue building the houses. In turn, we would find the community member that needed a home and give it to them. And so that's how that was born. And we call them our Cougar Carpenters because they are the Cougars. That's what they are. That's their mascot. So we have a class. They just graduated, 18 seniors, and they built the most beautiful home. And it's not actually tiny. It's 620 square feet. It's going fantastic. It has its roof on. We're hoping to get that house set in September. And that house is going to Project 118, which we're most excited about.
Outstanding. Julie Carpenter asks, is there, she wants to know on the same order of thinking, is there still hope with housing there? Are people still having to move?
Yeah. So, yeah, we're still having problems. A couple of weeks ago, FEMA came to do an inspection at one of our projects properties, 415. And instead of coming and approving them for help, they condemned their house for their septic. And so we had to move them way up the list really fast, do whatever it took. And actually, right before the podcast started, I got a call from Newt that they got their septic done today. So their septic is fixed. We were able to take care of that. And that's what I do with the money that we raise. We started raising money by God sent shirts, right? He sent me a print shop that closed down. We put the logo on the shirt. We started selling the shirts. And that's how we've been able to raise a significant amount of money to help our community. And of course, that has brought awareness. So we've been able to get additional donations and share our message and our needs. But that's how it all started. And the Cougar Carpenters, our carpentry program is incredible. And the instructor is Jeremy Dotz. He is just beyond amazing with his students.
That's awesome. Julie says, you've made preparedness a real reason. People realize it's not just a crazy zombie thing, right? It's not just tinfoil hat wearing, Y2K folks. Preparedness, guys, is a real thing. We don't just talk about it every week because we think it's never going to happen. Look, the best case scenario for me is to die with a full shed full of preparedness food. That's the best case scenario for me, right? Yeah. But God forbid, I needed it and I didn't have it, right? And this is what Stephanie's people found, where even if they had some of this preparedness stuff, even if they were good old folks that lived off the land, what happens when your land gets washed away? What happens when your livestock gets washed away? What happens when you're prepared, you've got 200 gallons of fuel? What happens when all that gets washed away? So this is one of the things, right, Steph? This is one of the things where community steps up. This is why one of the main factors, the things we preach the most is community, that tribe, right? It's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's bad that it happened, but it's good that it brings two things to light. First of all, God's glory to light, and the other thing is the community aspect of it all. So, man, that is something else. That's a blessing in disguise. Julie, I will ask that question here in a second, so I'll put that up when time comes. So even now, FEMA, are they giving you a hard time, Steph, with permitting and stuff like that, or is there red tape involved, or are they just kind of just like stamping it and go?
No, so the permitting is handled locally. That is through our local inspections department, and they're amazing. They're also local. They're so kind. The permitting office, our inspections office, is doing everything they can to help people make the right decision. So they've really got to look at that. Is this going to be in a floodway? Is it not going to be, so they're still trying to do that. It's definitely not rubber stamp. They're not rubber stamping things, but they are really putting in the effort to make sure that our community members are rebuilding back safely and properly. Unfortunately, a lot of times when you have a lot of volunteers come in, they throw a house together. It may not be exactly right. Like right. We had a house go up over in Mitchell County. I just heard it through the grapevine. The whole house was built without a permit. Like you have to pull permits, right? There's inspections. They never pulled a permit. They never had an inspection done, and there's cabinets hanging in that house. So our building inspections office, they're incredible. They're local people. They care very much about their community, and they're doing everything they can to help people rebuild their lives.
Very good. So are you guys still, speaking of volunteers, are you guys still accepting volunteers? What can people still do to help?
We are still accepting volunteers. It is a difficult process. We have so many projects that we're trying to get through. We're working to have a crew. We're working with a local contractor that has a crew designated for us. And so they, this month, actually, that's something that since our Jeep into the Hollers event, now we can fund this crew to just start knocking stuff out, because the volunteers do not come as steady as we need them. I need people working every single day. And so we're evolving in a way where we have a specific crew designated to rebuilding Hollers. They're working under another company, but we are contracting with them to start getting these projects put back together.
So Sue, you just mentioned, and there was a question about the Jeeping for Hollers. First of all, let's talk about Jeeping for Hollers. Tell us what you did there and if that was successful or not. I know my good friend Franklin Horton was up there, you guys. So tell me about Jeeping for Hollers. Was that a success? Tell me about it.
It was great. So Jeeping to the Hollers, of course, God sent that to me. And he said, you're going to get a Jeep. We're going to bring attention to your area. You're going to have a Jeep to give away. And so the Jeep into the Hollers, the intention was that people need to see our devastation. You cannot imagine what we have experienced, what we are continuing to experience until you see it. And so the DOT has done a great job getting our roads back together. And so we felt that it would be okay to take small groups of tours through the community. And so we were able to do that. We did not have as many tours as we were hoping for, but our downtown event, we had the Jeep tours, we had a silent auction downtown. We had a big shindig on the square where we had a lot of different local vendors. We had a raffle walk where people could go through all the booths and all the stores in town to enter into the raffles that were given away. So it was a multi-level, a lot of things going on event, and it was amazing. We had an incredible time. God did send us a Jeep. He sent it through the George Shin Foundation 3 days before our event. And so we were able to sell 343 tickets, and we sold those for $100 a piece. So we raised $34,300 in 3 days for our community, for our rebuilding efforts. And that was significant. That was so very cool. We also had a classic and Jeep car show going on at the same time. So that brought our community members out, got everybody seeing each other, got folks shopping locally. We had people come from Florida, from Michigan, from South Carolina, from the East Coast of North Carolina, from Tennessee. Hort came down from Virginia. It was incredible. We had a wonderful day. It was really wonderful.
Very cool. And doing my research for this, because I know Russ told you in the pre-show how OCD I am. So I do research on all my guests, and I listen to all of your previous interviews, so I don't do too much overlap and stuff like that. I'm just weird. I'm just a weird guy. But somebody mentioned, Amy mentioned, and I seen this on another interview that you had done about the scammers. So we talked about the good people in the community, right? You talked about the people that are always willing to help. But you have that certain aspect of people that want to game the system, right? They want to take more than they give. They want to take maybe when they don't even need, right? Did you run into much of that?
We did. I'm so thankful you brought that up, because there's multiple levels of scammers. So you do have the scammers that just come in, they were coming to the distribution line, they weren't from here, and get stuff. So that was one level of scamming. The real level of scamming, the real problem that we're having, are people coming into our community with intentions to scam people. So that could be from, they put their camera in their face and say, hey, tell me your story and I'll get you some money and I'll start a GoFundMe for you and I'll do this. And so they made boohoo videos. And so, and some of these were pretty large organizations that a lot of people thought were doing well. They raised millions of dollars off of our community, and we never saw a dime of it. But it's evolved even beyond that. So we've had people that come from all over the country. And I think that their intention was, well, we know FEMA will eventually pay. So they're just going to kind of embed into the community, start working, start doing things. and knowing that they will eventually get FEMA money for their activities. Unfortunately, the mountain terrain is different than anywhere else in the world. So you can't come from, say, Charlotte as a heavy equipment operator and come up here to the side of a mountain and have the same and know what you're doing. And I can say that with love because my husband is an incredible equipment operator in Charlotte. But here in the mountains, he doesn't run heavy equipment because it's a total different way that you have to run heavy equipment. And even driving dump trucks here is, going 90 down an interstate in a dump truck is totally different than going up and over Cox's Creek. We've had so many dump truck wrecks. We've had quite a few deaths. Trucks just lose their brakes, fly down a mountain, end up in the river. We've got some pretty big issues with all of those things. But the worst con that we have right now, and we have them, they're watching probably. They know I know, and I know they know, and I want them to leave, and they know that. But they are attaching onto my community members. So we have a high population of incredible elderly folks that, they may be widowed, they may be alone. And during this devastation, they felt very alone and I'm sure very afraid. And so folks would come in, I'm here to help. I want to help you get your home back together. I want to do this for you and I want to do that for you. Maybe they're in their 30s and my community members is in their 60s or 70s and now they're in a relationship. Mm-hmm. So and this is not just men and women, it's women and it's both sexes doing this to our older population. And wow. That is the worst. I call them all kind of things, but cons. That's what they are. And it's wrong. It's wrong to come in and scam on someone whose home has been devastated, whose spirit is devastated. And just, because people here are so kind and they're so thankful because that's how they treat each other. Here, people take care of each other. So they think someone came in to help them and they're scamming them. One of my attorney friends told me he's had at least 8 elderly people in our community come to him and ask him to deed their property to someone else. And so the attorney asked them, well, did you know them before the storm? And they said, oh, no, they've just been here helping me ever since.
Wow. That is crazy. And you had mentioned that you had spoke with an attorney, and somebody in comments had mentioned that one of the services you provide or have provided was to make sure that these people are represented legally, right, through the proper channels. So that was another thing you guys did, right?
Yeah, and we actually have. I haven't even got to announce it yet, but we have an event coming up June 24th. We'll have actual legal in the office that whole day, having a legal seminar so folks can come ask questions, get help, anything like that with any legal issues that they're having.
Wow, very good. So Julie asks, how can people now make sure that they're getting help from a reputable source, even if they're still in need today?
So the long-term recovery group in Yancey and Mitchell County are combining lists to provide the community. That is a long-term recovery group. Each county gets one. So it is the county's nonprofit per se that makes sure that as money comes in a state or federal capacity, it's coming down into that long-term recovery group, and they are supposed to be oversighting. I go to their meetings weekly. They're on Tuesdays at 9:30, and so they are working on a list of trusted resources that folks will be able to reach out to. Of course, people can call me anytime, and I'll tell you. I have a trusted list of locals that I will hire and that I would recommend for my community to hire. Wow. That's the best way, yeah.
Will asked, and I didn't know this. Will asked, did you guys do something with this old house?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
No, thank y'all. Y'all do know me. So I was telling you about our construction technology program. So we actually were able to go on Good Morning America with them back in, I think that was into March, April. And then 2 weeks ago, this old house came to town and they filmed for a feature episode with our carpenters right before school ended. And that will be on the air in September.
Very cool. So they came in and helped, and I'm sure they were a benefit, not a hindrance. Because a lot of times, right, a lot of people want to come, but there still has to be some logistics involved.
Right.
Somebody has to, steer the direction of the projects.
Yes.
So a lot of times people come in, it's like it's overwhelming.
Right.
Yeah, I've worked mass casualty incidents before, and you get all these fire engines coming on the scene, and all of a sudden now your mind has had to direct traffic to benefit the most victims, right? So it's good to hear that they were actually a help and not just there for a photo shoot.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's been amazing. And that's the kind of exposure we need. We need people to know there's still significant damage here in Yancey and Mitchell County, and we need help. And so anytime that organizations like that reach out, we're so thankful to film with them. I put reporters in my car every few weeks, and I take them everywhere. And then I say to them, now you've officially been farther than the North Carolina governor, because anybody that gets in my car, they're going further than the governor was willing to go. So,
and that's powerful, right? That's something that legacy media they don't necessarily always show that, because they know the underlying problem was caused by their ineptness, the federal government's ineptness. Now look, the disaster happened. It is what it is. But FEMA's sole job is not housing. Listen. If you're from Steph's group, if she's paired her channels with me, I'll tell you that I'm very biased when it comes to some of the stuff goes on. But FEMA funds, first of all, are not meant to put illegal immigrants up in condos in New York City. FEMA funds are for people that have suffered a tragedy like these poor folks did over there in Western North Carolina. So you ask, like, why am I so partisan? Why do you, this is why, right? It's not just because I was raised this way or that way. It's because I follow what happens to our own citizens, and I see where our tax dollars actually go.
Yes.
And it's infuriating to me. So I'm going to get off my soapbox for that. I'll save that for later.
More crazy I just read about. News 13 did a thing on it. North Carolina has 1,000 single wide trailers that they were supposed to be distributed into our communities. And guess how many they've distributed? 6. 6. It's month 8. And the North Carolina state has 1,000 single wide trailers. They've distributed 6 of them, and not one of them has touched dirt in Yancey County. Yancey County is the most devastated of all the counties. We had the most wind, the most rain, the most loss, everything. We're number 1. If you look at the report, Yancey County is number 1, the most devastated of this storm. And not one of those trailers has touched ground here. Not one. Now, it gets worse. It gets worse.
I love it. Go, tell me.
You have a FEMA trailer here. Let me tell you how the FEMA trailers work. One of my projects has a FEMA trailer. They come inspect that trailer every week. 6 FEMA people come and inspect her house every week, a single wide trailer. And last month, they told her, if you don't start making progress on your home, we're going to take the trailer. So you're not giving her money to fix her house. So how's she supposed to do that? You're coming and harassing her weekly to do inspections, sending 6 people to do that, intimidating her. And now you're threatening to take the only safe place she has to stay because she's not making progress on her house, which she doesn't have money to do. I mean, you don't want to get me started.
Russ has already told me to calm down in private chat because he knows how passionate I am about this. But I'm not going to yet, Russ. I'm not going to, because I'm there. I'm right there, so I gotta go. And the fact of the matter, I just saw a report, Steph. 6 trailers. And they divided how much those 6 trailers cost. They haven't gone to anybody yet. These trailers haven't gone to anybody. These 6 trailers cost the taxpayers $600,000 a piece by the time all the bureaucrats got their money.
I could have bought that for $89,000. Come on.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, I'm done. I'm not gonna go any further on that.
But at least you know. Now you know. You know. Everybody knows. This is facts. This is what's happening.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're going to say, no, that's not what's going on. Then go look and see what's happening. Get off of your couch, get out from in front of your computer and put boots on the ground like this young lady has here, and go look and see how American people are suffering and it's not just the last administration, guys. It's the current one too. Okay, the last administration is gone. Okay, so what's happening right now? Not enough.
And I feel like the current administration, they did what they said they were going to do. They put it down to the state. Well, let me tell you what happened in North Carolina. We had emergency disaster team. When the new governor came into office, he disrupted that team, split them to the wind, put them in all different places, and put in a new team. So in March, April, we had to start all over with a whole new team that's never dealt with a disaster before. So it's just been crap show after crap show, and that's what's made it so hard. That's what's made it so hard to.
It has, and the red tape always makes things like this hard, and that's why you can't rely on anybody else, folks.
I can't wait. I can't watch my community members suffer. I can't. Sometimes all I have to give them is a tool or a little bit of material. But what I say is, what do you need this week? I'm going to get you through this week. So we just, they tell me their materials list for this week. I get them some building materials so they can keep moving forward. We have
Russ just read my mind. Russ, that was the next comment coming out of my mouth right there. Steph Johnson for a gubernatorial run, right? Very cool. Steph, look, I appreciate you. Tell the people how they can get a hold of you if they want to volunteer or donate to your nonprofit organization.
Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody. You can find us online at rebuildinghollers.org. And you can see some of our projects there. You can get your merch. You can make a donation. Every dime you send to us goes to buy new building materials and paying local contractors to put our community back together.
Very cool. Thank you very much, Steph. You're doing God's work, young lady. It's my honor to know you. It's my honor to call you a friend. And if you need anything from us, just holler. Oh, wait, a last second question came in. I gotta answer. Let's see here. I can't let you go yet. Okay. What is your long-term timeline for your community? So obviously you might have a plan. So let's talk about when's your 80% rebuild plan?
So my plan is 5 years. We're 8 months into a 5-year plan. I feel like it's going to take me the first 3 years to rebuild all homes and businesses. And after that, I'm going after our county parks. Our most incredible county parks are destroyed. I will build them back. I have to. We have to have them. And then I have a couple pretty big businesses that are going to need my help in South Toe. And so we're going to fix all of that. But I have 5 years in me. That's my goal. 5 years.
Very good. So
Rebuilding Hollers will cease to exist. I have no desire to go to someone else's disaster. This 501c3 will cease to exist. Everything we have left, if we haven't spent it all, which I will go to the Pillars organization and fund our high school construction technology forever.
Well, very good. Guys, you know how to get a hold of Steph. Remember, her podcast is going to be on tomorrow. Her debut podcast is going to be on tomorrow.
How long as good as you, Pete? I don't know.
at 8 p.m. She'll be on all the platforms, right? I'll be tuning in. The Eden Army will be tuning in. You've got a big following already, so that numbers are not going to be a problem. So we all look forward to tuning in. With that said, thank you very much, Steph. God bless you. And again, it's an honor to be your friend. We're going to run your Rebuilding Holler promo video right now, young lady.
I love y'all.
Join Stephanie Johnson, founder of the Rebuilding Hollers Foundation, on Rebuilding Hollers, Come Hell or High Waters, a podcast that celebrates the unyielding spirit of Western North Carolina's recovery after Hurricane Helene. From the Hollers of Yancey and Mitchell Counties, Stephanie brings you powerful stories of resilience, community, and hope as mountain families, volunteers, and local heroes rebuild homes, businesses, and lives. Each episode dives into the heart of this 501c3 nonprofit's mission, from delivering critical supplies to constructing new futures. Hear from neighbors, clearing paths, families overcoming loss, and the Appalachian grit that defies any storm. With Stephanie's heartfelt storytelling, Rebuilding Hollers, Come Hell or High Waters invites you to witness the power of unity and discover how you can support the journey. Tune in Friday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube to feel the mountains and join the mission. Come Hell or High Waters. Subscribe now and visit rebuildinghollers.org to get involved.
Great show, brother.
Russ, what do you think of that young lady, huh? What do you think of her?
I think is awesome. I think she's absolutely awesome. What she's doing, I agree, man. She is definitely doing God's work up there. I'm proud to be associated with her and helping her with her podcast starting tomorrow.
It's exciting. It's good stuff.
Bring her back in.
Bring her back in. Oh, we're bringing you back in, Steph. There you go. Just when you thought you escaped, they pull you back in, right?
Back in.
Yep.
Oh, good job. That's powerful stuff. It's good stuff, and I'm glad that we were able to continue to bring this to light. Right? I know we got a lot of news going on in the world today. I'm not going to get into it tonight. We've already gone an hour. I'll can it. I think the professionals call canning it until next week. And next week, guys, we have an interesting show.
No, we do not.
Oh no, they
Fraggo on that.
Oh, okay. So. Next week we just have a boring show, guys, with me and Russ. But that's all I got, Russ. I'm gonna let you do your thing, brother. Since we're already an hour in, tell us what you thought. Tell us what you're thinking about rebuilding Hollers. What you expect from it, since you'll be on the back end producing it, and just give us your insight for the evening.
Man, I tell you, I am really excited. I really agree with Steph's message. I think her podcast is going to be a huge success. If you look at her Facebook reels and the stuff that she is already putting out, her followership is already there. I think this was one of the best podcasts that Eden Army's put out because the message is real, and everybody knows Steph. And even the folks that don't necessarily know the Eden Army that were with us tonight, thank you for joining us. Hope to see you guys tomorrow night. And I always say, concentrate working with your community. And Steph really embodies that sentiment. And guys, always remember, you have a birth date and a death date. Let's worry about the dash. That's all I got.
Good job, Russ. Thank you very much. We appreciate you for that. Steph, I know you weren't expecting this, but at the end of the show, we always let our guest, or let myself, or let Russ, give just one tidbit of knowledge, of encouragement to all of our viewers. So guess what, young lady? Not on the agenda, but you're up.
Okay. So my best advice ever would be, if you start to panic or you start to worry, you just don't. The Bible says 365 times not to be afraid. So anytime you're afraid, do not be, because you're never alone. You'll never be alone. God hears you. He's with you, and he will never abandon you. So that is my message for the day.
I love it. It's a blessing to what's going on, and sometimes we build back up out of the ashes, right? That's what they tell us. So that's what rebuilding Hollers is doing. And guys, like I've said many times, and I've said it many times during this podcast, we are our own first responders. Our safety is in our hands and our hands only. So do the best you can, be prepared, and keep it going. And guys, just do me a favor, be safe out there. But if you can't be safe, be dangerous. Thanks for watching the Eden Army podcast. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And remember, be safe. If you can't be safe, be dangerous.